In physics, there's an experiment that broke scientists' brains. They fired tiny particles, electrons, at a barrier with two slits in it, and when nobody was watching, the particles behaved like waves. They spread out, they interfered with each other, and they created this beautiful, complex pattern on the other side. But the moment scientists set up a detector to watch, to observe which slits the particles went through, everything changed. The wave pattern disappeared. The particles started behaving like particles, like solid, separate, individual things. The act of observation changed what the particles did. Not the detector itself, not the equipment, but the observation, the fact that something was now being watched. I've been sitting with this experiment for a long time because I think it's telling us something about more than just physics. Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome in. I'm Z, and this is The Art of Becoming. This channel sits at the intersection of identity, nervous system healing, and creating a life that actually feels like yours. Today, we're going somewhere I've been wanting to go for a while. We're talking about quantum mechanics, the observer effect, what a quantum leap actually is, and why I think science is starting to confirm what those of us who came up studying metaphysics and the mechanics of faith have already sensed is true. I want to be clear about where I'm standing before we go in. I don't want to overclaim anything. I'm not going to tell you that believing hard enough will teleport money into your bank account. What I am going to show you is that the science of observation, both on a quantum level and a neurological level, point to something quite radical about the relationship between your certainty and your outcomes. Stay with me. This one will be worth it. Let's start with the phrase that everyone has been throwing around: quantum leap. In the personal growth and manifestation space, a quantum leap means a massive overhaul, a complete 180, overnight success, an instantaneous shift. One day you're here, and the next day, everything is completely different. That's not what a quantum leap is. In physics, a quantum leap, or a quantum jump, is the smallest possible discrete change of energy. It's an electron moving from one energy level to another. It is, by definition, the tiniest unit of change that can exist. So here's what I want you to hold. The quantum leap is not some giant miracle. It is the smallest, most precise shift in state. And I actually think that's better news than the miracle version, because it means that the mechanism of change isn't out of reach. It's not waiting on something dramatic to happen to you. It's available in the smallest, most intentional movements that you can make right now. But we'll come back to that. First, I want to tell you about how I became a flight attendant. It's been quite a few years now, but I got this idea in my head. I wanted to become a flight attendant. Not a passing thought, an obsession. The kind that takes up space in your mind, even when you're trying to think about other things. And here's what started happening almost immediately. I started seeing flight attendants everywhere. On the street, in movies, in conversation. Planes felt like they were constantly overhead. I'd be scrolling and a vlog from a flight attendant would appear. I'd be talking to someone and they'd mention a friend that worked for an airline. Now, was the world suddenly full of more flight attendants? No. What changed was my observation. I had tuned myself to a specific frequency, and my brain started surfacing everything that matched it. Things that had always been there, but I had never been looking for. So I kept feeding it. I watched vlogs. I researched the process. I studied interview tips. I consumed everything I could about what the job actually looked like, what the requirements were, and what the women who actually had the job had to say about it. And within 3 to 4 months, I became one. Not because I wished it into existence, Because I became a conscious observer of a specific possibility. And that observation changed what I noticed, what I prepared for, what I moved towards, and ultimately, what I made happen. That's the science we're going to talk about today. Let me take you back to that experiment that I described at the beginning. The double-slit experiment is one of the most famous and most debated experiments in scientific history. Here is the basic setup. So scientists fire electrons, subatomic particles, at a barrier with two slits in it. On the other side, there is a screen that records where the particles land. When scientists don't observe which slits the electrons pass through, when there's no measurement of observation, they behave like waves. They spread out, they pass through both slits simultaneously, and they create what's called an interference pattern on the other side. Multiple bands of impact overlapping like ripples in water. This tells us that the electron existed in a state of superposition, essentially all possibilities at once. The moment scientists set up a detector to observe which slit the electrons actually pass through, the interference pattern disappears. The electrons start landing in two bands directly behind the slits. They stop behaving like waves of possibility, and they start behaving like particles. Singular, located, definite. The scientific community has spent decades trying to explain exactly what happened here and what it means. I'm not going to pretend like there's a clear consensus. There isn't one. But what the experiment consistently demonstrates is this: the state of observation changes the outcome. The act of measuring, of looking, of attending to, of fixing your focus collapses possibility into a specific reality. I'm not telling you this to say that your thoughts create your external reality in some literal quantum way. I want to be careful here because this is the area where a lot of people overclaim and lose credibility. What I'm saying is this: there is something in the architecture of reality, even at the level of the tiniest particles that we've ever studied, that suggests that observation and outcome are not separate. They are entangled. And when we look at neuroscience, we start to understand one very real, very concrete way that this is true for us. If this topic is of interest to you, consider subscribing. I'll be here covering topics like this every week, and I would love to have you become a part of our growing community here at The Art of Becoming. Now, let's get back to the science. Your brain processes approximately 11 million bits of information per second. Your conscious mind handles about 50. The rest, the overwhelming majority of everything that your mind is taking in at any given moment, gets filtered, sorted. Most of it is quietly discarded before it ever makes its way to your awareness. The system responsible for this filtering is called the reticular activating system, or RAS. It's a network of neurons in your brainstem, and its job is deciding what's important enough to bring to your attention. It's the bouncer at the door of your conscious mind. And here's the thing about the RAS. It filters based on what you've already decided matters. What you've already decided is real for you. What you've already decided to look for. When I decided to become a flight attendant, I didn't create more flight attendants in the world. I reprogrammed my RAS. I told it, through my sustained attention, my emotional investment, my research, this is what matters to me. Bring me more of this. And so it did. This is why certainty isn't just a feeling. It's a signal to your filtering system. When you operate from genuine certainty, your RAS starts surfacing the opportunities, the people, the information, the doors that were always there, You just weren't primed to notice them before. And this is why doubt can be so particularly costly. Not because the universe punishes doubt, but because a mind scanning for evidence that something won't work will find exactly that. Same environment, different measurement instrument, different reality interpreted. Your nervous system is your observer, and what it's observing, what it's certain of, shapes your experience of the world. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Because I'm not interested in giving you beautiful ideas that dissolve the moment you close this video. Here's the framework. I call it conscious observation, and it has 3 parts. First, get specific about what you're observing for. The RAS cannot filter for vague. A better life is not a frequency. I want to work in fashion is not a tuned instrument. The more precise the image you hold, the more detail, the more sensory reality that you give it, the more specifically your brain can begin surfacing things that are relevant. When I decided that I wanted to become a flight attendant, I didn't just decide that I wanted to travel more. I got specific. I watched real women doing that job. I knew the carriers I was interested in. I knew the interview process. Specificity is what collapses the wave function from all possibilities to this possibility. Second, become a consumer of the frequency you want to inhabit. This is what I did obsessively and what I now understand neurologically. Every piece of content you consume about the life that you're moving towards is training data for your RAS. It's not passive. It's literally building new neural pathways. Grooves that say, this is real, this is possible, this is where I'm going. Consume intentionally. Third, take the smallest quantum leap. Not the miracle, not the dramatic gesture, the tiniest precise action that moves you one energy level up. Make the inquiry, send the email, take the class, sign up for the thing. Small, deliberate, directional movement is how you signal to your nervous system, and perhaps something even larger, that you're serious about the observation that you've claimed. The wave collapses when you become a committed observer, and committed observers take action. I came to this conversation from the woo-woo side first. I grew up fascinated by the mechanics of faith, esoteric knowledge, the way different traditions across history discuss the relationship between human will and human reality. Something in me always knew that people who understood how to use their will, really use it consciously and deliberately, lived differently than those who didn't. And then science started catching up, not replacing what I already believed, but confirming it, giving it a language that I could share with anyone, regardless of their relationship to the spiritual. The double-slit experiment doesn't prove manifestation in some neat and tidy way, but it does suggest that at the very foundation of reality, observation and outcome are not as separate as we thought. And neuroscience tells us very clearly that what your mind is tuned to determines what it finds. You're always observing something. The only question is whether you're doing it consciously. What are you tuned to right now? What possibility are you holding on to with enough certainty that your nervous system has started scanning for evidence of it? What is the smallest quantum leap, the tiniest, the most precise shift available to you right now? Start there. That's the art of becoming, and I'll see you in the next one.